Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Pham and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my new career in the software engineering / tech space for nonprofits. What I'm going to be talking about in this video is based on my own experiences and opinions for the past year. If you're working in the tech space for a nonprofit, your experiences may differ. I have asked ChatGPT to give me a list of questions that I can answer for you to give you more information about the technology within a nonprofit organization. So the first question that ChatGPT asked me is, what type of nonprofit space are you currently working in? I am currently working in the mental health space, specifically for suicide prevention and crisis intervention services. For me, I have always been interested in suicide prevention and mental health. Back in college, a bunch of my buddies and I started an annual philanthropy called Lifeguard. And within this Lifeguard, we were able to collaborate with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and actually spread awareness about suicides, statistics, resources, and things like that for students, staff, and employees on campus. Moving on to the second question. So ChatGPT asked, could you tell us a bit about the role of technology within nonprofit organizations? All nonprofits are different. Working with suicide prevention, what we do here is essentially having counselors available to be able to converse with users who have suicide ideation or just want to talk about the problems. In order to actually provide this type of service, we rely heavily on technology. We use a variety of tools from third-party integrations to other platforms to even our own custom code base to be able to manage our own data, as well as communicate to donors, vendors, and volunteers, as well as develop innovative solutions to help solve some of those mental health crises that are arising within our country. Going to the third question, what are some of the unique challenges and rewards of working in tech for a nonprofit? A lot of the times our users will go into our services having suicide ideation or mental health issues or even interpersonal relationships, and our counselors are trained to be able to use our platforms and tools to be able to help them de-escalate some of the situations that they're thinking or currently having, and ultimately saving their life. For me, that is one of the greatest things that I could do. Ever since high school, I have always wanted to be a doctor. I knew that I wanted to help people and save lives. I even went to school for pre-med route, but that didn't pan out because I didn't have the tenacity or the skill sets to memorize a lot of those biological terms, and especially OChem I wasn't really great at. So I pivoted to going into the technology / computer science route. Years later, I had an opportunity to combine both of my worlds, just technology, and the other thing would be making impact and saving lives. Now that I talked about the rewards, now I'll pivot over to the unique challenges working in tech for a nonprofit. The first one that comes to mind is actually budget. Our funding is based on donors, other companies, and government, so it fluctuates from year to year. So we have to take that into consideration. So most of the time, we try to leverage more of the free things and free frameworks in order to save money. Anytime we think about a new business solution or a new technical architecture, we would always do some cost analysis. And so, for example, if you're hosting a website, right? A lot of times you might think of utilizing a containerized application like EC2 or specifically Kubernetes engine if you're using GCP. However, you have to think about how much that will cost. And if it's an application that's not going to be used by multiple people and needs a heavy throughput, then we would think about creating a static website using S3 buckets or Google Cloud buckets. This would help us reduce a lot of our costs. I think the number two thing that comes up for me for unique challenges working in the nonprofit space, specifically for tech, is the burnout. This burnout is a little bit different from working in the industry or Fortune 500. For the Fortune 500, burnout is just that you're working overtime like 60 hours because your boss wanted you to do so. Whereas in the nonprofit space, it's different. You work extra hours more than you needed to because you care about the missions, you care about the users, and everything around there. And so there's this invisible pressure. For me specifically, within this organization, thinking about suicide and mental health issues every single day can be draining. Specifically, if our services break during a conversation with our users, that would make me feel so terrible because that person didn't get the services they need, and who knows if that person needs more help or not. All right, going into the next question, I think this is the fourth question. Can you walk us through a typical day in your role? Here at the organization, we run a Scrum framework where we run 2-week sprints and do the typical Scrum ceremonies, stand-ups, backlog refinements, sprint retrospectives, sprint planning. The cool thing about it though is for my team, I make sure that there's not a lot of meetings for my engineers because I know myself, I hate meetings. As an engineer, I know they would hate it a lot more. But for my role specifically, I would have a lot more meetings than engineers. Some of these meetings consist of one-on-ones with engineers within my team. And the second thing would be, having meetings with product managers to make sure that some of their ideas align with what they want to put into the product backlog and if it's feasible or not. The other thing too is actually having conversations with other departments within the nonprofit, because some of the things that we're building also affect some of their team. Other times I would be actually investigating our backlog to make sure we have all the technical dependencies, and other times I would be writing documentation and user guides for the end users. Cool, going to the next question by ChatGPT. Can you share any inspiring stories or examples of how technology has made a significant impact in your nonprofit work? Besides the services that I already mentioned, it's automation. My team specifically build tools to help other departments and other verticals to accomplish their operations needs on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, to automate some of their processes and make them more efficient, to do other things or even help more people. All right, going to the last question. What advice would you give to those who are considering a career in technology within the nonprofit sector? Great question. I would say my first advice would be to make sure you really want to work in the nonprofit space. A lot of the times nonprofit pays a lot less than the industry. And that goes into my second advice, is making sure if you do want to go into the nonprofit space, make sure you choose an organization that actually resonates with your own personal values and beliefs. Because if you work for a nonprofit that doesn't resonate or aligns, you're just taking a pay cut and you have no motivation to work for that company and make it better. Third advice is that you don't want to go into nonprofits thinking that you can bring in modern technology stacks into the nonprofit space. As mentioned before, nonprofits might not have that type of money. And so if you're utilizing, the latest tech stack from AWS with machine learning and everything like that, that could be extremely expensive and you might not be able to implement that. And so if something that you care about is the technology stack, then I would say stay away from nonprofits because they might not have the opportunity to use that. So hopefully you enjoyed this video where I got to talk more about my experiences within a nonprofit, specifically tech and mental health. And if you have any questions, just feel free to comment down below and I'll answer them. As always, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.